Hi, I'm Jeff. Welcome to this lightning smart video. This follows on from the SWOT, Strengths, Weaknesses, Opportunities and Threats, that I invited you to get involved in the previous video. And if you followed that, I imagine what you now have is a list of your strengths and your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats. And maybe you did the final exercise that we talked about there, which is to align your internal strengths with your external opportunities and your internal weaknesses with the external threats. In this video, we'll invite you to have a think about that and put them onto, well, an interesting matrix that I use a great deal when I'm working either with individuals or teams, and that's the impact or influence video. Because at the moment what you have is a list and potentially some themes and areas that have emerged. How do I know which ones I'm going to be working on? I'm going to help you frame that up today. So the next thing to do for you is to just create in front of you a matrix with impact on the vertical axis and influence along the horizontal axis. High, low, high, low. So the top right hand corner we have a quadrant which says high influence, high impact. Top left hand corner we have high impact, low influence. Bottom left hand corner, low impact, low influence. Bottom right hand corner, high influence but low impact. So you should now have your impact and influence matrix in front of you, and also your lists of your strengths lined up with some opportunities and your weaknesses lined up with your threats, either as individual items or potentially as combined elements with some themes and some labels attached to them. What we're going to now move into is putting them straight onto the matrix. So I invite you just to pause for a moment now and take a look at that list that you've got of your strengths and opportunities and weaknesses and threats, and begin to think about which quadrant that you're going to put them in. And we'll now give you some practical tools in just a moment to do that. But just take a look for a minute. Already what's starting to emerge for you. Welcome back, and we're now going to place those themes that you've developed directly onto the matrix, which then should give you some ideas about what you're going to do about each of them. The first one to start with, I think, is the top right hand corner, which is those things that you've identified which have a high impact and over which you have a great deal of control, in other words a good degree of influence. Which are those? So I guess if we go to something like COVID-19, for example, the recent pandemic that we've all been working our way back through, we might recognise that return to work is something that has a substantial impact on your organisation, and over which potentially, well, what influence do you have? The ability to create safe working spaces, the ability to get social distancing, the ability to think through PPE and its use and the creation of those policies are all directly within your control. That would be an example of high influence, high impact, and would go in the top right hand corner. Pause the video for a moment. What are the things emerging from your list that you've got which would readily fit into that area? Welcome back. A further piece that you might want to do just on that list is to identify which of those can you do most quickly, which can you get maximum return from with applying potentially little energy or little cost at this stage. They often present themselves as priorities that you want to be getting on with straight away. Okay, rather strangely, we're now going to move to the bottom left hand corner, the low impact and low influence. Are there any items that have crept onto your list which were good ideas or seem like good ideas, but actually when you come to look at it now aren't at all? There might have been somebody's or your brilliant idea which seemed great in the moment, but now you come to look at it, not only does it not have a tremendous impact, you also don't have a great deal of control over it, and you can safely get rid of those. Take a look now on your list that you've got there and get rid of any of those that might be in that way. Welcome back. We now move to the two rather challenging quadrants, the top left-hand corner and the bottom right-hand corner. Top left, the things which have a high impact but over which you have very little influence or control. So these are classically things that the kinds of things traditionally it's been is currency exchange rates, infection rates on COVID, over which you have no direct control other than influencing the people you directly come into contact with. So if they're high impact, such as currency or any kind of insurance thing, then what we do classically is to manage the risk. We look to create ideas that move into the top right-hand corner. How might you alleviate the risk? Well, in currency, what you might well do, of course, is some hedge funding, is to actually exchange currency in advance or take out insurance in some kind of a way, or protect your workforce in particular ways with PPE if it's COVID that you're looking at. How do you move items which are appearing in the top left-hand corner into the top right? So pause the video for a moment. Anything that's appearing on your list which is top left, and then begin to think about how you might move that into the top right. Away you go. Welcome back. And last but no means least, we move to the bottom right-hand corner. Things which have a high degree of control or influence, but actually, when you come to look at it, potentially have less impact than you may have thought. Now, these might actually be regarded as red herrings, and perhaps you need to take a look at that list on the right-hand side there, and decide, is there anything there that actually has less impact than I think it did? Pause the video in just a moment. Is there any of those things that you can now get rid of or leave for later, which are going to detract or take away resource, red herrings in other words, from where you might apply that scarcest resource you've got of all, which is your time. Away you go. Okay, welcome back. Now, hopefully what you've been able to do is to use impact and influence today to really think about how you prioritize those things which are going to be most important and make most difference to yourself, to your team, and to the organization of which you're part, by prioritizing even more effectively than you currently do. Thank you for watching today. Take care and see you soon.